All right, everybody. Welcome back to Mondays Down South. We got a quad box for you today. Haven't done one since the Super Bowl, so we got two guests for you. Don't need any introduction, but I'll give it anyway. Marty and Lou been on several times before. Glad to have them back. Coming from the Raleigh area. Dare I say, the most fun team in hockey. Carolina Hurricanes coming off the Stadium Series win over the weekend. What do you guys got? Good to have you back.
Yeah, good to be back. I think that was pretty epic. No, my wife and I regret not going to it, but especially since she found out Jake Owen was there, like doing, TV timeout concerts apparently. So that was hard to watch and have her right across from me, staring a hole in my head. But it was fun, man. It was fun to watch. Me and Lou actually got some friends together and went to the local, watering hole and watched the game and. Had a good old time. The Caps got it put on them. So,
hey Marty, you kind of beat me to it here. I was going to be like, did any big life events happen in the time since we've last had you on? But then you said wife, so there it is. There it is. Flex on us a little, buddy. Congratulations. Yeah. I haven't gotten to tell you that. Congratulations, man. That's big time.
Much appreciated. Much appreciated. These two were the tireless ushers at the wedding, and they did a fantastic job. But partially
we got our ties.
Partially my fault for the night before, but it all worked out.
Partially.
Didn't have to cancel the wedding. So.
I will say
a lot of hard work.
I will say I appreciate you having your wedding during NFL season because it was an opportunity for me to watch some games with Lou and Ev that weekend. So it was nice to meet Lou in person as a result. So welcome aboard, Lou. Go Dolphins, go Jets. We got quite the representation from the AFC North over here today. So. We're going to talk some good stuff here. Lou, how you doing, buddy?
Good. Thanks for having me. It was a good season for the Finns, and looking forward to the offseason. We'll see. See if they can step things up.
Yeah, we're going to have plenty of that to talk about. E, do you got anything in specific?
I do. Marty, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. You mentioned your wife, huge Caps fan, but you told me over the weekend, again, I'm going to put you on the spot. If you have an announcement to make, this would be a great time to share with the world, if you've maybe had any change in your hockey fandom in the last few weeks, if you want to.
I think, I don't mind. I think I've come to terms with it. I think it's good to kind of put a backstory to it before I just dive right into what I've done, as it can be deemed blasphemy by some. I, met Maddie, almost 7 years ago now. She's obviously from DC, so huge Caps fan, grew up a Caps fan, her family, all big Caps fans. So, of course, I start getting into hockey to, get to know her more because she liked it so much, and I started falling in love with it. And then, lo and behold, 5 years later, we moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, home of the Hurricanes. After being here for 5 years, it's been hard to be a Caps fan, having the Metropolitan Division rivals right here in the hometown and walking by everybody in my TJ Oshie jersey getting the glares of death. So I've come to terms with, adjusting, and I've gone to enough Canes games to say that I have decided to officially adopt the home team as my team. And last night, the Stadium Series game was officially my last time, kind of being for the Caps. I think I'm officially adjusted now because I didn't have anything for them during that game, and I was just ready to watch the Canes whoop up on them, and they did exactly what I wanted to, and that made me change. And here I am. I already bought the Aho jersey for my birthday, which is tomorrow, and I'm ready to go watch some Canes this weekend when Evan comes into town, so it'll be awesome.
Yo, he really sucked you into his vortex, huh? If I remember correctly, the story goes, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to fabricate anything here. However, from what I understand from Evan and Lou, at least what they told me on One NFL Sunday, was that the way you met your now wife was she was watching a Caps game and wearing a Caps jersey. And I think you may or may not have gone on your phone and did a little Google research. Did I hear that?
Well,
did I hear that story correctly?
And Sai, you'll doubly appreciate this. Tell him who the player was, Marty.
Well, so yeah, I didn't know anything about hockey players or NHL or Canada for that matter. So I got a lot of history, and then Brooks Laich was the player jersey that she was wearing. So former Toronto Maple Leaf who transitioned to the Caps, and I think maybe I got it backwards there. I don't know, but she had his jersey because she's a huge fan of his. Maybe former wife now, Julianne Hough, who is, the Dancing with the Stars girl, who has the brother, Derek. So yeah, it was funny because I had to look it up because I had no idea. And that was the way I kind of broke the ice, so to speak, was, hey, why are you wearing a Brooks Laich jersey? Blah, blah, blah. And lo and behold, we're married.
Wow. I'm telling you up front, you got to pull that clip for these segments. It's going to be a love story on MDS. And also shout out to my fellow Mets fan, Chris Shamus, with the Brooks Laich jersey reference. If you know, you know. That's all I'll say about that one. We can move on from there. Go ahead, E.
Yeah, maybe this is our chance to get Brooks on the pod here, the mutual friend and the love story to him going. But anyways, I had to take my chance here, and appreciate you switching over to the dark side, and maybe we'll get a cup this year. But let's talk some football. Obviously, we haven't had one since the Super Bowl, so I guess we'll give some Super Bowl reactions, and then we'll get into some of the early offseason stuff. So I guess Lou, do you want to start us off just kind of with your reaction to Super Bowl? I guess 57. It is
57. Yeah, I mean, it was one of the better games I remember watching in previous years. No Tom Brady, so that's always a plus. But I mean, it was the Chiefs were the Chiefs, and the Eagles played well. Jalen Hurts was unbelievable. I mean, I think if this season in general wasn't his coming out party, that game was. Like, he's the real deal. But the Chiefs they're in the middle of their dynasty, and Mahomes is unbelievable. He had just with that injury and the way he ran at the end of that game, and I mean, it was such a fun game to watch. I really enjoyed it. Just a high scoring game, a lot of offense, and great plays on both sides of the field. I know Eagles fans are going to be upset with that holding call at the end of the game, which I think was a fair call, but nonetheless, they'll be upset. But great game. I mean, great game to watch. Hard to argue with that.
Go ahead, Marty, what you got?
Yeah, so, Super Bowl 57, I think that's about the age I felt watching all these guys out there because, as I said before, it's my 33rd birthday tomorrow. So getting older and seeing these younger guys take over the league, that's the conversation that you hear most is Patrick Mahomes the new top 5 of all time already in his career at 27 years old, putting up the numbers that he's put up. It's pretty impressive to watch, and it's hard to say that anybody is better than him at this point in the NFL at that position. I mean, I can't think of anybody in the past, 5, maybe even 10 years who has, done what he's done, and it's just been amazing to watch. But, Jalen Hurts is kind of, I'd like to follow up with on that. I mean, the guy's put in the work more than anybody. He's one of the guys who got doubted, but he's one of the guys who showed his worth. And it's definitely going to come time when it's time to renew that rookie contract to see what the Eagles are willing to put in for him. And I think he's given his all, and I think it's going to be something that's going to be worth their while. They might have some other holes to fill, but we'll get into that later. And I think, overall, just a fantastic game to watch. I think everybody had a good time. We had a little Super Bowl get-together, and I've never been that, involved in like watching every single down, because you got people over, you're entertaining. So, to be sitting there next to Lou and just talking about every single play, it felt like, Lou, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think there was every down we were talking about something that would happen. Just the constant back and forth, and then the coaching, Andy Reid, I got a bug flying in my face. Sirianni, the guy's going to be, I think he's going to be great for years to come, and it's awesome to see these guys coming up. Watching the Kelsey brothers, that was another thing that was really cool. And then the commercials, of course. So all in all, great night and a lot of fun.
Yeah, shout out to Riri for her pregnant halftime show. Took everyone by surprise. That was another surprise. Yeah, I think I'm going to jump right into this. I already mentioned Riri in the Super Bowl halftime performance. I know this isn't game oriented, but I do feel like she's getting a little too much flack for not, having as energetic of a performance as some people might have wanted. However, my personal opinion is if you can go on that stage pregnant and still get people, excited. I mean, Evan and I were at a bar in New York, and people were on tables dancing and singing along. So, the appeal of Rihanna, regardless of, whether she's standing, sitting, whatever it is, she was amazing. So I want to give her a shout out because I think that was amazing. On top of that, I'll go to the game now. As far as the game goes, I think you guys both hit the nail on the head. I personally, Evan and I, prior to this episode, I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to see it, but we had our little Super Bowl prediction episode. And I think Evan and Zach both picked the Eagles to win. I picked the Chiefs to win, but I think we all were still on the same line of thinking because I think I can't speak for Pekulik, but I know me and Evan both felt like this was going to come down to the very end of the game, and it was going to be a one-possession game, maybe a 3-point game, and unfortunately, the way it ended wasn't optimal. I do agree with you, Lou, when a player comes out and says, I did hold the guy, I can't really fight it. Flip side to that, though, is I'm sure that's happened more than once in that game, so I don't fault people for also saying, hey, like, why would you call that in that moment on an uncatchable ball? It's still up in the air for me, but one thing I do want to say is, regardless, amazing game from both teams, and the Chiefs still earned that victory. I'm tired of this being an excuse for people to say, hey, Mahomes has an asterisk on his second Super Bowl. I disagree with that. I think he played lights out in that second half. And it's funny because if you look at his statistics, you're looking at 180 yards passing and whatever it is. But the thing is, dude did not have the ball much because the Eagles dominated time of possession. And when he did have that ball, that offense just moved. It doesn't seem like they really got stopped. When the biggest stop was Bucker missing an easy field goal, which was honestly would have made a huge difference if this game ended up going the Eagles' way. So I got to give Mahomes a shout out. I said to Evan Zach, I was like, the thing is, I understand the Eagles are probably the better overall team. However, the differentiator for me is when it's close, it comes down to quarterback play and coaching. And to be fair to the Eagles, Jalen Hurts was absolutely phenomenal. Like, he had a legitimate claim to everything he's done this season. He proved that he's an MVP conversation, and he proved that on the grandest stage, especially after everything that he went through in Alabama where, people thought he couldn't cut it in the big game. Well, he can definitely cut it in the big game. I got to give him love for that. But Mahomes is on that growth trajectory, and I refuse to believe otherwise. And there's no better time to say, I'm saying right here, right now, and I said it before, I think Mahomes will go down as the GOAT. And I know these AFC North guys, along with my Peyton bias, are very much rooting for that as well because nobody wants to hear Brady as the GOAT for the next 50 years of our lives. So I'm glad I got these guys repping today. So that's what I'll say. I'm sure we got more comments, but I'm going to kick it over to E and see what he's got.
Yeah, I think you all kind of, hit the nail on the head. I think the difference in this game did come down to coaching, right? I think going into the game, I said every matchup on the field looks like an advantage for the Eagles, which, maybe wasn't quite true, but nonetheless, I think this came down to, the Chiefs made the halftime adjustments. The Eagles had a touchdown lead at halftime, seemed to have the game, pretty good in their hands. Andy Reid made the adjustments, schemed it up. The Eagles didn't make any adjustments at halftime, and I don't think like Sai said, I don't think the Eagles stopped the Chiefs once in the second half. And that was the difference. I mean, the quarterback play, like you guys said, was pretty even. Both of the guys were lights out and, hardly made a single mistake. Jalen made one big one in the first half. But otherwise, I think the game came down to coaching, and that was the difference. And, like you said, I didn't think it was a holding, but then Bradbury said it was. So, I'm going to take his word for it on that one for sure. But disappointing way to end an amazing game. But shout out the Chiefs. Everyone kind of doubted them all year, including me to some extent. So giving the credit where credit is due on an incredible season, not just that game. But we'll see. Can they run it back next year? We'll have to see.
I will say this too. Oh, go ahead, Lou. Go ahead.
Good. I was just going to say, just going into the season too, the narrative was, they lost Tyreek Hill.
Mm-hmm.
They just it was like they downgraded from last year where they underperformed in the playoffs, and they were not by any means a Super Bowl up there, but there was the Bills talking going into the season, and they lost a few kind of fluky games throughout the season, which the Chiefs tend to do. They like to keep games close, so yeah, like you said, they were kind of. It's hard to say that they were underdogs this season, but they kind of were. Like people definitely doubted them, and even in the playoffs with Mahomes being hurt and just playing through that injury the way he did, it was really an impressive season, and particularly postseason for them.
Yeah, and what's interesting too is I think obviously even myself, I was talking about coaching and players up front, but got to give a ton of credit to their management. I mean, to have Mahomes signed to like a $500 million contract to shed Tyreek Hill, who was proved even on Miami with, as you know, Lou, he's a top 5 receiver in the league. He does things that nobody else can do. You lose a player like that, and you revamp not only that offense but that defense. I mean, that defense is the youngest defense in the league. The Chiefs are the 3rd youngest team in the league, and they just won a Super Bowl. So they're doing well on cap space. They have a ton of picks after that Tyreek Hill trade. I can only see them getting better from here. I don't see them getting much worse. So it's kind of unfair to the rest of the league to think you have Patrick Mahomes. I'm sure Kelsey's got at least a few seasons of top-tier tight end play, and then they're going to just get better. And also, some of the guys that weren't the best on offense this season are coming off contract, so they can address that through the draft, through maybe trading for players. So, I mean, the Chiefs are in a beautiful position going forward. The other thing I wanted to say is, I kind of wanted to ask you, I shouldn't even say, is I know a lot of people have had that conversation after the fact of where does this put Mahomes in the rankings? And I think Marty or Lou, one of you guys brought that up. You were saying people are already talking about him being top 5. I'm genuinely curious, at least in the sense of quarterbacks. I know he's only played like 5 seasons, but the guy's went to 5 straight AFC championships since he started. He's won 2 Super Bowls. He's won to another one. He's a 2-time MVP, 2-time Super Bowl MVP. Who do you guys got? Where do you got him in the rankings? I mean, it's a genuine question. I mean, he's probably a Hall of Famer today if he retires. So I want y'all's opinion.
I was going to say keep going, Sai, because I think there's a couple more things you didn't mention.
That list is too long for 5 seasons. It's ridiculous, guys. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'll just start by saying that, I definitely agree. I think, like I said before, you can go back decades and, not see the numbers like they are with him. And, it's tough to put it into perspective when you're talking about people like Marino or Joe Montana, all these different guys, these huge names that you always talk about, but they're historic, they're this, they're that. I mean, we're watching it, and, we watched it, for the past 23 seasons with Tom Brady. I mean, as much as I hate to admit it, the guys, I mean, he was a game changer, and that's exactly what Mahomes has proven that he is. He is a game changer, and he's done all the things that he's done before he's hit 30. I mean, just imagine the next 3 years, what it's going to look like. I mean, it's going to be hard to say that he's not going to be able to surpass Brady, especially with his record.
So if you were to do it right now, Marty, would you give me your top 5 quarterbacks right now? I'm putting you on the spot.
Top 5 quarterbacks. I'm going to go Brady number 1 all time, just numbers wise. I'm going to go probably Montana, Marino. I'll put. This is a tough one. Yeah, I would say number 3, 4 has got to be Favre for me, personally. Granted, he, had his fair share of scandals. I think he was still one of the best quarterbacks. And then, I would probably have to give it to, Mahomes right now, just the way he's playing, the way he is. I mean, that would be my top 5 personally, just of all time, actually having some knowledge of it. If I actually dug deep, I'm sure I would adjust, but on the spot, yeah. There we go.
That's why I asked on the spot. If I asked you to prepare, I feel like you guys would have come in with all the research. Now, I want to know what people think because it's more fun this way, right? You get more of that, and it seems like, Marty, you're more a historian when it comes to your quarterback choices, which I genuinely appreciate. That's awesome. And I know Lou's doing his happy dance that you picked Marino in there, so I'm going to ask Lou the same question.
Well, I like to look in the sense of, it's hard for me to really judge, how Montana, Elway, these guys that I never really watched live. So, let's say the Brady era of quarterbacks in the last 23 years that I've been able to watch, it's Brady's up there. I'd probably put Rodgers number 1, Brady. I mean, I think Mahomes probably 3rd up there in that, the last 20 years. Maybe Peyton Manning. Now I'm thinking,
yes, sir.
Yeah, you got to put Manning above him. I mean, he's in that conversation. He's top 5 of the last 20 years, and he's only played 5 seasons. Is that where he's at?
Crazy.
So, I mean, I very much expect that by the end of his career, he'll be the best quarterback I've ever seen play. That's where my expectations are heading. And it's I mean, he just does things. You watch him play and like he makes plays. And it's like, wow, I've never seen like just the way he flicks the ball and gets out of the pocket and throws the ball sidearm on the run. Like he just makes insane plays, and he's the reason they win games. Like he's the reason they're in the games they're in. He makes plays happen, and he's a great game manager. And I mean, yeah, he's special.
Lou, and just to confirm, you went the top 5 players that you've seen play. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, I would definitely. I mean, if we go back, I mean, Montana is obviously up there. Marino.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, got to put Brady up there. As much as I say it,
I think it's cool that you know, and this is, you know, not really going off topic, but I think it's cool how, you know, I picked Marino and then you picked, you know, a Jets player like Rodgers. It was really cool that you did that.
That's going to tee us up well for the future, for the rest of this podcast. So I'm here for it. Before we get there, E, what you got?
Yeah, I like Lou's framing of it, and guy, because it's so hard for, like, if I haven't seen the guy play, it's hard. But Brady would definitely be one for me. If I'm limiting it to guys I've seen play, I might have Peyton 2. And then Mahomes definitely has an argument over Rodgers. I would maybe put Mahomes over just because of Rodgers' kind of postseason success. But maybe those two guys in a toss-up there. And then historically speaking, obviously Montana's up there, probably second for me, just based on my understanding. And then, you know, Marino, Elway, those guys are kind of in the conversation too. But, yeah, he definitely has an argument for top 5, I think, already at this point in his career.
Yeah, I think E, your list is going to be similar to mine, and obviously Brady number 1 makes sense. I'm not going to use this as a chance to rant about Manning, but I've watched a lot of lists recently where Manning hasn't even cracked the top 5, or, you know, people are like leaving him out, and then they're like, okay, but Montana and like Elway and these guys. I'm like, do we just forget about Peyton Manning? The guy's got like every single season record ever. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP. Like, the guy's done. He's got 5,500 yards passing and 55 touchdowns this season. So he's definitely top 3 for me. Whatever order you want to put him at. But I actually have Brady, Manning, Montana. Then I have Mahomes 4 actually, because I think Rodgers on any given day might be the greatest quarterback I've ever seen play the game. And Lou, I appreciate you giving that shout out, because like I said, in a singular game, what he can do is out of this world. It's ridiculous. Like, he close his eyes and flick it. And I actually think he's better than Favre in the sense of Green Bay Packers history, because he's way more efficient. I mean, Favre is by far the most interceptions ever, and he's a gunslinger, but also somebody that I don't know you can always rely on. So that'd be my only argument. But regardless, the fact that we're having this conversation is absurd. I think I'd have Elway 5th, but the fact that Mahomes is decisively in all of our top 5s, and he's played 5 seasons of a starter, that's stupid. Like, that's actually stupid. And I heard the other day, actually, which is really funny, is I think Mahomes is 25, 26 now, or a little bit older maybe. Brady, 27. Brady won 2 Super Bowls in his first 5 years, right? And he didn't win his 3rd one until he was like in his like early to mid 30s. So he had a big break right there. There's a chance Mahomes at this age is on a faster trajectory. I'm not saying he's going to get to 7. No, I mean, that might be an absurd statement, but I don't even think he has to, because his current trajectory of playing the way that he is, he's on pace to break every record. He's on pace to have maybe the most MVPs ever. Like, it's absurd. I mean, we could talk about it forever, but I don't want to make this a Mahomes specific topic, but I have been tooting my horn about the Chiefs. And I said it before the Super Bowl, and I'm going to say it again. I'll pat myself on the back. I have never picked against the Chiefs in the entire time that we've had MDS, and Evan and Zach will give me a whole bunch of crap for it, and it's paid off this season, so I'm happy.
Well, I'm just glad you clarified on which Manning brother you were talking about, because a second I thought you meant Eli.
If we're counting rigs, but anyways, the Rodgers discussion cues us up to one of the other things I wanted to mention. We got a Jets fan on the call, obviously, so Marty, we'll jump into it. Give me your prediction on who is the Jets starting quarterback in Week 1 and who you want to be the starting quarterback in Week 1, because the second question might seem obvious, but we were talking a little bit before the call. I'm not sure it's as obvious as it seems. Yeah. So give me both answers.
My gosh, man, this is something I've been mulling over for a while. Even I guess since we first benched Zach Wilson mid-season, It's one of those things where you look at the, and we had talked about it so many times before, but you look at the history on these guys. They get these veteran quarterbacks to come in, and they're going to change everything about it. I mean, Sai, firsthand, Matt Ryan, Evan, you understand, Carson Wentz. It's just that thing that you see not work. So it's definitely just back in my normal, corner of cautious optimism. But if I had to pick, right now, if I had a gun to my head, I'm going Derek Carr. And I think it's an age thing for me. Granted, he doesn't play well in cold weather. I think he's got the young talent that Rodgers would have, but he's got a leadership mentality. I think the only thing that concerns me with Carr is his I don't want to call it thin skin, but I've seen some reactions from him that I don't really like in post-game pressers where they don't do well or just come off a close loss, things like that. I wonder if that's going to get to him because, the New York media is ruthless, man, and the fans are ruthless. It's not something that's easy to take on, and I think that's what that showed a lot with Wilson because honestly, he's, it's a kid, and you got to think of all the pressure, and it's tough for anybody. But especially in that market, like it's just another game. So I wonder that about Carr, but I think Rodgers on the other hand, he could probably walk in there and be everybody's best friend and not have a problem with it. But at the same time, I just think the age is a factor now, and I think it showed this past season. Granted, Rodgers had some great games and he had a great chance to come back. I just feel like Carr is more of what I would see as far as the game speed. And I don't know. I've always kind of I've always liked Carr. I've always kind of liked him personally as a player. So that's my pick. We'll see what happens, but either way, I'm not going to be upset because we're not going to be starting Zach Wilson. So that'll be a win right there in its own way.
Is that your pick and prediction? Both?
Yeah. I'm going to go with both. Pick and prediction. Carr. Yeah.
Hey, Lou, as a division rival, what do you think they'll get and what do you hope they don't get?
I will say, I'll start with this. The Jets, as a Dolphins fan, I'm not happy about where the Jets are right now. They've got some young talent. Offensive, defensive rookies of the year, what's his name? Running back. Breece Hall. Thank you. Drawing a blank. Breece Hall, was hurt most of the season, and he was a stud when he was playing. So, they definitely have a good future ahead of them. They've done some good drafting. They've got cap room. They've got seems like good coaching from this year. So that being said, I think they're set up to be a really good team, and I think if they have the opportunity to sign Rodgers, they sign Rodgers because, first of all, he was outside of last year, the previous 2 years, back-to-back MVP. He still can do it. He didn't have a lot of people around him this year, and not to mention just from a franchise standpoint, the same reason the Bucks would throw anything away to sign Brady. Like, he's going to sell tickets. He's going to sell jerseys. He's going to, for a franchise, you want that kind of guy on your roster, and you'll pay him. Not to mention he's a great quarterback. So I think if Rodgers wants to go there, that's who they'll get. That being said, it sounds like they really like Carr. I do think Carr would also be a good fit. I really don't want them to get either of them, although I think it's going to be one of them. I would be more worried about them getting Rodgers because I still think Carr's going to be expensive, and I think they have plenty of cap room, and they can still build around either one of those quarterbacks. So, and to your point, Marty, you're being nervous about having a veteran quarterback come in. I see what you're saying with that. My flip side to that would be trying to draft another quarterback, as you guys have done the last 2 times, and that has not worked out so well for you. So for the Jets in particular, maybe switch things up a little bit and go with a veteran guy. But we'll see. I think they're going to be a rough opponent this year, and the AFC East is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I'm so curious too because first and foremost, Aaron Rodgers, right? If he is available via trade, I would bet Like, if I would bet the entire MDS account on Rodgers going to the Jets, because why else do you hire Nathaniel Hackett? Like, you're not hiring Nathaniel Hackett for any other reason than saying, I want Aaron Rodgers in wherever the Jets are. I know they're New York, but I guess Jersey, New York, whatever you want to call it. You want Rodgers there if he's available. And quite frankly, I mean this with no disrespect to Carr. I think he could find some success with the Jets. But I could see this very well, and Evan knows I'm a big Rodgers believer, but I could see this very well turning into what the Rams had. Because I legitimately believe that if the Jets got Aaron Rodgers next year, they could win the Super Bowl literally next year. I mean, they're built for it. Their defense is nasty. Keenan Williams, you got the secondary with Gardner Johnson. Like, that is not a defense I want to see. And on offense, your young weapons, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Michael Carter, like 8 other receivers. Your offensive line is pretty solid. Like, you put Rodgers in that situation, and the thing is, I know last year is not a great reflection. Hopefully when it comes out of his darkness retreat, he'll have a new perspective on life and the game. But when he comes out of that darkness retreat, I hope he decides to take his talents to New York. Is he out? Okay, so I hope he takes his talents to New York, because I legitimately believe that last year he was in an awful situation. His best receiver was Christian Watson, who was a rookie and took half the season to kind of get his wings under him, which makes sense. But he just didn't have weapons, and he didn't have a great offensive line, and Green Bay in general defensively was a struggle, so I can see why he didn't succeed. But I'm with Lou, man. He was an MVP just a season ago, so there's no reason for me to believe he couldn't. Now, to Marty's defense, I understand that, you might think Rodgers has maybe 2 good years left in him, right? And if that's the case, you're obviously giving up draft capital for him. But I think he gives you the best chance to win a Super Bowl, like, immediately. And if you can do that, you do it, in my opinion, because you're set up for it. Like, you're ready for it. And even if in 2 years Rodgers struggles and you move on from him, you're still going to have your young core, because you got a lot of these guys already there. They're young contracts. It's not like you're having to extend all of them right now. So I think the Jets are in an amazing spot. I hope they get Rodgers, because that'll be a really fun team to root for. And I legitimately believe that they can, even in that loaded conference with the Bills, with Miami, we haven't even gotten to them. But, I mean, if Tua was healthy last year, that's an easy playoff team, and a team that nobody really wanted to see with their offensive firepower. That division will be so fun. So I really hope Rodgers comes over to that division. The only sad part about that will be that just makes the AFC that much better and the NFC that much weaker. But that's what I'm rooting for.
Yeah, I do see the Carr argument in the sense that it maybe like it gives the impression of like a longer window than Rodgers would give you, but I also think like you guys have been saying, like, I think the Jets are probably closer than maybe it seems immediately to the eye to being able to even win a championship. So with that in mind, and I think like your receivers, obviously Garrett's awesome, but like a lot of those other guys have been busts. Like Elijah Moore looks like a bust. I don't know if he's still there. Mims isn't good. Corey Davis isn't particularly good. So I assume they're going to bring in another guy because the rest of their team is so stacked. But like I don't know if Carr is enough to like elevate that receiving core, even with the team around him. So I agree. If you have the chance to get Rodgers, go get him. My prediction though is that you actually get neither. I think Carr is going to go to the Saints. And I think you guys are going to try for Rodgers. I think Rodgers is going to go to Vegas because, Sai, I get your Hackett point, but let's be real here. Who's more of an incentive for Rodgers, Devontae Adams or Nate Hackett? That's an easy one. My prediction is that you guys end up with either Garoppolo or Tannehill is my prediction of what actually is going to happen.
Could be
I hope so.
too, honestly.
You guys have hired basically all of the connections to these 4 available quarterbacks to make sure that you land one. And I think you guys would be good with Garoppolo, but, we'll see. Tough division, but yeah, I guess that's the gist.
You really think, Evan, that if Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, he's going to pick the Raiders? I get Devontae, he's incredible, but the rest of the team the Jets have is like if I'm Rodgers, I don't know. I don't want to speak for Rodgers. I don't know his mindset, but if he is going to leave Green Bay, the Jets give him an immediate opportunity to win the Super Bowl. If he goes to the Raiders, his ceiling is maybe what the Packers have done the last couple of years, which is win a good bit of regular season games and losing the playoffs because they're not as complete. And the other aspect of that is I think you're underrating the Jets receiving weapons because when you have, no disrespect to Mike White, but when you have Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White throwing the football for the last season or two, of course there's going to be regression. None of those guys can support more than one wide receiver, and obviously Wilson's the best. But Elijah Moore has proven in the past prior to this season that didn't he have like 11 or 1,200 yard season the year prior? If I'm correct, Marty, like Elijah Moore's played well. I think there's weapons there that with a guy like Rodgers, like there's definitely more to be had there. And who's your tight end? Didn't he have a pretty solid season until he got a little banged up as well? Like
Tyler
I think
Conklin.
what's up?
Tyler Conklin and then C.J. Uzomah.
They have a pretty solid core, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know. I think the Jets have a lot of young guys that I would be excited about if I was Rodgers.
I think the weapons are the only weakness on the team, but I think they could use some more. But I also, the one thing I want to say, can you imagine Aaron Rodgers in the New York media market? Like, obviously he has super thick skin, so nothing really will ever like get to him. But like, just like I cannot even imagine like the types of questions that he'll get. It'd be hilarious.
When I get into this coaching carousel, guys, like I've been so upset and so hype about some of these hires that like I've been really, really looking forward to it. I want to start off with the negative so we can flip to the positive after. How on earth is Jonathan Gannon the head coach of a team? Like, somebody explain that to me. I've been waiting all fucking week. Excuse me, I did it again. I've been waiting all week to go on a rant about this because I was so pissed to see some of the dudes that didn't get jobs this offseason and then see a guy who just let up maybe the worst second half ever in a Super Bowl. His defense got completely exploited. This is arguably the most overrated defense we've ever seen in the history of the NFL because they played maybe the weakest schedule I've ever seen. And I don't want to disrespect them because they have playmakers, but my point is people talked about them like this is the greatest defense. This is one of the best defenses we've ever seen. And when the moment shined brightest and you took that schedule away and you realized, oh, they played the 49ers with nobody, or they played the Giants who overachieved, or they played one of the weakest regular season schedules ever, the Chiefs destroyed them. And then that guy, after the Cardinals just moved on from Cliff Kingsbury, which I thought was one of the worst hires ever, somehow managed to make an even worse hire in Jonathan Gannon. Like, somebody explain that resume to me, and I'm not trying to be rude. It's not like I'm perfect by any stretch of imagination, but come on, bro. That makes no sense. There's way better options, and the only plausible explanation I could have for this is absolutely nobody wanted that job, and they were just like, well, we're screwed. We got to give it to somebody, so let's just pick this guy because he has a Super Bowl runner-up attached to his name. I don't know. I'm going to lose it. I'm going to let one of you guys talk about it, but that pissed me off so much. It really bothered me. There's so many better options out there. The fact Raheem Morris isn't a head coach and this guy is absolutely ridiculous to me. But anyway, I'm going to kick it over to one of you guys.
I mean, to your point, there's better options out there, and I think you might be right. Nobody wanted that job. I mean, like, people don't seem to believe in Kyler, and coming off this bad injury now, we'll see. I think he's still a good player, but and like you said, Kingsbury, I didn't think that was a good hire either. Like I don't think the Cardinals front office is particularly good at picking coaches, and I don't think it was a desirable job. And I think it was one of those prisoner of the moments hires where they saw something they liked and they're putting their cards in. Teams now are trying to get that young next guy. I mean, the Dolphins did with McDaniel. McVay kind of started this all, but yeah, I don't think it was necessarily a desirable job. I mean, I don't think Sean Payton was interested in going and coaching the Cardinals. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think anybody really wanted to coach there. And if he coming from the defensive coordinator position in Philly had that opportunity, I think he jumped on it. But we'll see how it plays out. But I kind of agree with you. It's an odd hire.
Yeah, I'm with you, Lee.
Evan, I'll let you go ahead on this because I got a few things I want to discuss. So you go ahead and give us yours.
Yeah, I was mentally preparing for a Jonathan Gannon rant as well. So, Sai, you teed me up perfectly. I feel the same way. I mean, I didn't notice it until the season was basically over. That schedule was, as we knew it would be before the season, but like it was even worse looking back on it than we thought. I saw a quote the other day. I forget who it was from, former player. I think it might have been Brian Dawkins actually that said like he just gets carried by that just insane defensive line that they put together, and Gannon just doesn't add any value to Howie Roseman putting together an awesome roster defensively, and obviously an easy schedule. And I was saying this before the call, he brings in a defensive coordinator also from Philly. I think that's 29 years old. And I actually disagree that this is such a bad job that nobody wants because it is a rebuild. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but from what I understand, they actually have like good ownership that like is fairly hands off and like is willing to put the effort in as we've kind of seen. And like I'm not a big Kyler fan by any means, but like you have the quarterback in place already. Basically, you could he's not a sure thing. I wouldn't say again. I'm not a big Kyler fan, but like I really don't think it's a bad job. So the Cardinals, from what I've learned, I heard was they always flip because like Lou said, they're terrible at hiring coaches. So they make one mistake and then they do the opposite, which is like they go with the crazy offensive guy with Kingsbury and then they go the opposite and do a defensive guy. But yeah, to pair a defensive guy with Kyler and to bring in an offensive coordinator that has no experience either from I think Cleveland. This one just makes no sense to me. I think it's a disaster hire. And yeah, it's a shame for all the guys that still haven't been able to get head coaching jobs. Not that I'm complaining as a Commanders fan because we got to steal the enemy as an OC, but I don't understand how a guy like that can't get a job, but Gannon does.
Well, Evan, you teed me up perfectly there because that's exactly what I was going to say. I think you look at guys like Bieniemy. This would have been the opportunity right here to prove that he's been one of the best options for a head coach out there. Getting out from under the Patrick Mahomes, Chiefs, situation. I think that's what he's done. I mean, I'll kind of go off topic. If he can do it with the Commanders, then it just proves how good he is. Because let's be honest here, they got a lot of things they got to work on, but I think if he, would have been selected here for the Cardinals, it would have been a perfect opportunity for him to come into a failing franchise. I mean, it's absolutely horrendous what they have going there. Their defense is not anything what they used to be. Their offense, I don't remember the last time they had a running back I could remember besides, James Conner. Yeah, he's okay, but I mean, their wide receivers. Is Hopkins? I mean, he's gone, right? What's his deal? Is he still?
I think they're looking to trade him. He's under contract, but I think they're looking to trade him. Yeah.
So I think you're putting a lot of eggs in one basket here, and the last thing you need to do is try to bring in somebody with no head coaching experience to coach up a quarterback who doesn't seem like he has the reins to begin with. I think it's going to be a really, really tough sledding for the Cardinals, and I wouldn't be surprised if you're sitting here talking about it again next season. And them going back to the coaching carousel because this just doesn't it seems like a Nathaniel Hackett situation, right in that same wheelhouse, at least for me, because maybe he was a good DC, but you look at what the Eagles had. I mean, you look at that talent. I mean, it's not anything that the Cardinals have, and I think they're going to have a lot of trouble, and I don't think it looks like the guy is kind of I don't know. He just doesn't look like head coaching material. I'll keep it at that. I am very interested to see what they plan on doing for the draft. So the GM, though, I think the GM, he might be somebody. I don't really know much about him, but he looks like he has his stuff together. So we'll see what happens. But Eric Bieniemy was my main thing. I think the guy could have gone there easily and done a great job.
I also feel like I'm going to say this right now, and this is no disrespect to Ron Rivera because he was a leader of men, and he obviously had a great, couple of years there in Carolina where he went to the Super Bowl and they just missed out on winning one. So, I mean, there's no disrespect, and I know he's a big locker room guy. However, if Bieniemy goes to the Commanders, right, and Howell in his first season playing has a good season, and that offense lights up, and they play really well, and they go and they make it to the playoffs, he better be the Commanders head coach the season after. Like you gotta get, like if he's put in that position and he succeeds, like after this coaching carousel that he's gone through for 5 years of not being hired, and maybe people's excuse is, oh, he's had Mahomes and Reed, and Reed's been calling the plays, which I get, like if you were talking about a play caller, but explain to me how there's like 500 other guys who have been offensive coordinators that haven't called plays in that time that have been hired to head coaching opportunities. But the guy that's with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and has won a Super Bowl and gone to the AFC Championship 5 years in a row, somehow he doesn't have enough of a resume to do it. That is absolutely absurd to me.
And specifically, sorry, just to add into that, two of those guys are Andy Reid disciples, Doug Peterson and Matt Nagy, neither of which exclusively called plays, and both went on to have in Doug's case, multiple head coaching opportunities, and Nagy's case, one awful one. But carry on.
Exactly. And then the other side to it is, the flip side is, I'm looking at one other person who just got hired as a defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. I don't know how Wilks gets screwed the way that he does in his sense, but look out for that 49ers defense next year, because that man should have been a head coach. What he did in that second half of the season was so impressive. He didn't get the opportunity. And the 49ers, who lose an amazing head coach and former player, DeMeco Ryans, I'm happy for the Texans, even though they're a division rival. He deserved that opportunity. Just replace them with somebody who will make that defense as good, if not better, than it was before. That 49ers defense has the potential to be comparable to the Seahawks of, the Seahawks era that won Super Bowls, the Denver era that won Super Bowls. That defense is going to be out of this world. Steve Wilks being a coordinator is hilarious to me, but shout out to Shanahan and the 49ers for locking him up, because I don't understand how he's not a head coach. So those are two coordinators that I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it. It just seems so obvious, but it's not there. And I don't know if you guys have any comments about that, because obviously I do want to address the Colts later, but I'm gonna let y'all go first.
I guess on the Commanders piece, I think the more I think about this, the more I think it's going to be tough to have a situation where Rivera gets fired and Eric Bieniemy gets promoted. The one interesting thing I heard lately is Ron Rivera doesn't have that many coaching years left. So one of my buddies suggested that if it does, like Sai said, goes really well, you obviously don't want to lose Bieniemy. I could see Rivera stepping down from coaching, moving into a front office role, not as the primary GM, but just some kind of advisory front office role, and then them promoting Bieniemy. Because if things go really well, you're probably not going to fire Rivera, right? Unless Bieniemy links up with another head coaching opportunity, in which case you're all right, well, we either have to get rid of Rivera to keep Bieniemy, or just take the 2 first round or the 2 third round picks that you would get if Bieniemy leaves. So all in all, it's an amazing situation, especially because Bieniemy's making a ton of money now. But who cares about Dan Snyder's money, especially when it doesn't affect the salary cap? So slam dunk for the Commanders there. But
maybe Bruce Arians, Todd Bowles type situation, Ev? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I thought that made a ton of sense, because and Rivera has his in-game coaching decisions are horrendous, and his free agency propensity to only bring in former Carolina Panthers players is a nightmare. But the GM and Rivera have done an amazing job drafting, and obviously he's means a lot to the organization right now. So I thought that was a spot on suggestion, and would be an awesome outcome. But we'll see what happens. It could also blow up in our faces and everyone gets fired. So that would be par for the course here. But I guess unless you guys got anything else, should we move on to Steichen?
Looks like it's my time to shine here, boys. Welcome to Indy, Steichen. I'm actually really excited. We did the most absurd. Look, I love Chris Ballard. I think Irsay obviously has his flaws. There's reasons that people aren't the biggest fan of his, but as an owner, I actually really appreciate Irsay, because a lot of people seem to give him crap for being too hands-on. But if you really think about it, he gave Reich 5 years with the Colts, let him do his thing. And prior to that, all the head coaches we've had prior, he really wasn't that involved. I think people want to act like Irsay's super involved. I think he just got pissed off after 2 years of Wentz and Matt Ryan and us, not living up to our potential in the sense of talent because of quarterback play. So I can understand his frustrations. I don't know that I love that he hired Saturday, even if I love Saturday as a person. But besides all of that, Steichen, after a 40-day head coaching search with 3 or 4 different rounds, which has never been done in NFL history. I don't know, it went forever. It just, that week before the Super Bowl, it just kind of felt like it's got to be him, because they kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And all things considered, especially after that Super Bowl, I am so overjoyed that we got Steichen, just because his play calling this year, the positions that he put Hurts and his team in that game, to stay in that game even when the Chiefs were taking the leads or even when they had a lead. He's so creative with his play calling and his ability to adjust. And he's a guy that just coached Jalen Hurts, and prior to that he coached Justin Herbert in his rookie year, and helped him with play calling and helped set him up for success. As a team that needs a new quarterback and as a team that has a top 5 pick, I think he was kind of the perfect hire for us. And the more I've read into it, obviously you'll have your bias. You'll get excited about the guy your team hires. You'll look for the good in it. but there's not a lot of bad, and that's what I'm really excited about. He's also young. He's actually, I think, the second youngest head coach in the NFL, next to Sean McVay, actually, which is pretty funny and offensive-minded. So very excited about that. And the other thing I will say is it's super funny because I was joking about this with Evan when I was in New York for Super Bowl weekend. But the fact that we went from Doug Peterson, Frank Reich coming to us, and then him hiring Nick Sirianni as his offensive coordinator, then the Eagles taking Nick Sirianni from the Colts and making him their head coach. And then as soon as they make it to the Super Bowl again, us going back and being like, all right, we'll take your offensive coordinator again and take him right back to us. Hopefully this time that'll net in us being in a Super Bowl and potentially winning. So it's pretty funny, but I'm super excited. I'm really excited. Also that we hired maybe my favorite name in football, in Jim Bob Cooter, to run our offensive coordinator. I just love that name. It's just so funny. So that's where I'm at. I'll let you guys have your, take your shots at the Colts or agree with me or whatever you think. But I'm excited.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I've been kind of back and forth on this one. I like Frank Reich a lot. I think he did an okay job. I don't know, where it all went wrong. Obviously, was the Matt Ryan situation. So I think Matt Ryan just wasn't a good fit. Steichen, obviously, he's done wonders in Philly. So I think it's okay. And also, he looks like Dak Shepard, so that's also a plus there. Everybody likes Dak Shepard. But yeah, I guess the only thing is, what's the definition of insanity? Keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result. So that's the only thing that I thought of when I saw that they hired another Eagles OC. It's like, God, that's kind of crazy, right? It's just back and forth. But I'm interested. I think you guys having that top pick and getting your future QB potentially this year, I think that's going to really define who he is as a coach, and it'll show that you guys made the right decision, which I wish all the best to him, honestly, because I really like the guy.
I agree with you, Marty. I think Reich did do a good job there, and I think you said this side, but it just kind of, they've underperformed a couple years in a row, and just bad. I think mostly bad quarterback play, but and I think there just needed to be a change. And I think Steichen is going to be a good hire. I mean, he's proven that he can develop young quarterbacks. He's super creative. Like, that offense was just dynamic, creative plays, using all different kinds of players. I think they've got some weapons to work with. They'll bring in a young quarterback, and I think they'll be a fun team to watch. And I think it's a good hire. It's a good move.
You have no problems with that one. I think anything other than rehiring Saturday, which seemed like not only a possibility but a likelihood at one point, was a slam dunk. But I'm not sold on Steichen yet. I don't know if I find him overly creative at his play calling. I think what he does an amazing job at is just game planning and using space in the modern NFL and getting his playmakers on the edge. But I feel like he just kind of runs kind of a similar script and just uses space to his advantage and is really bright in that sense. And I think it makes sense to kind of start fresh, pair him with a young quarterback that, like you said, he's had a track record of developing. Jim Bob Cooter, isn't he a bit of a quarterback whisperer too, Sai?
That's what they say. Yeah. That's what they say. He has worked with quite a few QBs. We also
was he Stafford's? From way back
Stafford, he had some ties to Manning and people back in the day. I don't know. He's been kind of all over. He was a Jags passing coordinator or something like that. So, but regardless, he's not calling plays. The real thing is when it comes to a coach that calls plays, I think if you can just get a guy that you trust, and him and Steichen have worked together prior. If you just get a guy you can trust to kind of, follow your game plan, I think that's really what matters. The other thing, I really appreciate Marty and Lou, because I've listened to Ev just destroy Frank Reich for 3 seasons now, and I think they give him too much crap. I am genuinely so happy he got another head coaching job, because I kind of feel like he got done dirty a little bit. Don't get me wrong, he advocated for Carson Wentz or Matt Ryan, but he's also made the playoffs several times with a team that really didn't have it, and he did a good job of setting up an offense where we're able to run the ball and everything like that. And I think in a better situation, or a situation where he gets a little bit more of a fresh start, I think he still deserves that head coaching opportunity, because he's pretty creative, and I'm happy he got another opportunity. But I think Steichen's the right move with us going younger. And the other thing with Reich versus Steichen is the biggest qualm with Reich, I think, for a lot of people, was that he was very passive. He wasn't somebody that was very emotive or got very excited or got on your case or called you out if you did something wrong. And I think what our players were really hoping for was if we were going to move on from Reich, we wanted somebody that was going to do so. So, and one last thing, the only way Saturday was getting hired is if Irsay was going to be doing the thing. And to be honest, at first it looked like Irsay was going to be it, but within 2 weeks of us finalizing it, they said Irsay said Ballard will have the final decision. And as soon as he said that, I knew Jeff Saturday was not going to be hired, because the funniest part is even when Jeff Saturday first got introduced, Chris Ballard basically said, yeah, I'm pretty critical of this hire. However, he's the owner, so I can't really say anything, is what he said into the media. So I was never worried about that, to be honest.
There was some heat.
I think, another thing that I just think of every time I think of the Colts is the whole, quarterback carousel that you guys have been on. It was such a tough situation, after losing Luck like that, and then, going from who y'all did, right before the Luck, it's like you guys never had to really suffer through it, and I think, you guys have been through some trying times. So I think, your pick this year and having Steichen, it's gonna work its way back into it, and have that young team and that fiery coach like you need. Like I know Saleh is a huge, I think, he's on the proverbial hot seat, but I think Saleh is a great example of having that young team and being able to communicate well. I think that's something that he does great in the locker room. So I think that'll be really good for you guys.
The XFL was a lot of fun this weekend, gents. The XFL was a lot of fun. Hold on, I'm trying to send you a quote from the DC Defenders game. Maybe I'm a little far behind about them throwing lemons on the field.
I was gonna say I saw they had a little lemon party.
Did you
going
see
on.
the lemons? So I guess at the DC Defenders games, Sai will have to go to one sometime.
I'm down.
But they built a beer snake in the crowd, as they do at many sporting events, and they took it from them this time, and all the fans started throwing lemons onto the field in protest. They had to stop the game. And their line was, give us beer snake or we throw lemons or something. And I was like, what is? I don't know, but it was a lot of fun.
Party, essentially. Okay.
And it changed the game and got them a big win in their season opener. Go Defenders! But XFL was fun.
Boys, now that NFL season's over, we need to band together to come up with new hobbies for Evan, so I don't get texts on the MDS channel being like, hey, how do you guys feel about betting this XFL game today? I'm sitting there on a Friday getting texts from Evan about XFL betting, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me, bro. Like,
4 for 5. 4 for 5 on my bets.
So far, you've bet, European basketball and XFL. You're getting real creative now. You're getting real creative.
Yeah.
We got to find new sport.
I want to know, what hallucinogens made you feel so unwell that you were enjoying the XFL.
It was pretty entertaining. It was pretty entertaining. But
Let me ask you this, Evan. Because I saw a little bit of the games and I was reading a few things, but what if they've had some creative rule changes? Well, rules that they have in the XFL. Let's kind of tie it to the NFL. Did you see anything in the XFL games, kind of rules with the kickoffs or the extra points or anything like that you think could actually be implemented in the NFL in the future?
I could see the kickoffs actually. Like, it looks kind of ridiculous, but like the NFL, like they don't want everything to be a touchback, but they're like so focused on safety. So like the XFL, like the kickoffs are not only safer, but they're like always returned. I would see that one. I think the other stuff's a little too crazy. Like the extra points, like the kickers will always be a part of the game as much as they try to diminish it. And the 4th and 15 onside kick, that is way too easy for me.
Yeah, it's too easy. Yeah.
I mean, like that is, especially in the modern NFL, like you cannot, it's gotta be more than that. Like the one game, this team, they came back and scored 2 touchdowns in like a minute and a half because they got the 4th and 15. I was like, it was way too easy for them to come back and win that game. So I definitely
now imagine Mahomes doing that.
Yeah, it's a layup. It's a layup.
Except he's never going to have to do that. That's the difference. No, the flip side to that is the going for 3 after scoring is stupid too. I mean, that stupid is a strong word, but for the NFL, it doesn't make a lot of sense because that's too much. Like, what's the point of a field goal at that point, right? Like, it makes no sense. So, yeah, that's
a little too chaotic. But
was that AJ McCarron who did that comeback? Made that comeback?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw something where I saw Brent Musburger actually applied to be an XFL announcer now because Catherine Webb, she's still married to him. So
I love it.
listening. So that's all I got. Lou and Marty, thank you all so much, man. I was super excited to have you guys back on, and we'll always be a forever recycled guest. So we appreciate y'all. And E, I'll let you sign it off for bringing on these two wonderful gentlemen. So go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks again, gents. Looking forward to seeing you guys in a couple of days. We'll rip it up down there.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks for having us, guys.
Appreciate having us on.
friends.
You guys have a fun thing going on here. So
Appreciate you.
Appreciate that. All right. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. That was Mondays Down South.